Hype Manalo here with another NOC review. Before we get into that, as you can see, I've decorated. It actually looks like a place that someone would live in, not a Siberian prison. So hopefully you guys like it. Let's get on with the review. The Lion King, 2019. This is a remake of the 1994 classic. Jon Favreau has pulled out all the stops to bring this movie to life. And let me tell you, The Lion King is a masterpiece. I'm talking about the 1994 one. The 2019 one, not as much. This is what I call Diet Lion King, or Lion King Light, if you will. It's not a bad movie per se. In fact, it's literally the same exact movie, word for word, almost word for word, that you saw in 1994, but just a little less of the emotion and the impact. I remember going into the theater in 1994 with my mom, my sisters, and as soon as Circle of Life starts playing and the sun comes up and we just hit the title card, boom, The Lion King, I knew that I was in for something that I'd never seen in animation before, an actual epic. And hearing that Jon Favreau, the guy that did what I consider to be the best live-action Disney reimagining of a classic, The Jungle Book, when I heard that he was doing The Lion King, I thought to myself, there's no way it could get any better than that. The other thing that I thought to myself is, oh crap, Favreau's screwed. He's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. And what I mean by that is The Lion King as a film is so perfect and so beloved that if you were to make any sort of changes to it, the whole world would go nuts and say, you ruined my childhood. And if you didn't, if you went the other direction and made no changes to it, people would be like, oh, why didn't you give me something new? I've already seen this movie. So I don't think there was a way that Favreau could win in this situation. And he played it safe, and he went for the latter. And because of that, not only are we getting a movie that we've seen over 100 times in our life, but we're getting it with a little bit more of a diminished emotional feel and impact. I honestly think that the visuals are amazing in this movie. Favreau does it again. Any director that could go out there with a green screen room and a computer and create what he created in this movie, unfreaking believable. This is honestly one of the best looking films of the year, and it really makes you feel like you're there, like you're watching Simba, you're watching Mufasa, you're watching all these characters, because everything looks so real, everything looks gorgeous. And there are just some scenes, particularly when Simba meets Timon and Pumbaa and they show where they live, and Simba's just wowed by that. The audience is wowed with them as well. Because honestly, it's just gorgeous, it's breathtaking, it's astonishing. No one in the world can do this the way that Favreau does it. The other amazing thing about this movie, two people, Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen, they steal the show. They steal every scene that they're in. We loved Timon and Pumbaa growing up. They were my favorite part of the movie in 1994 when I first watched it. I think that they're going to be this generation's favorite part of the movie as well. There's just a really good chemistry between the two. It sounds like they're just ad-libbing half the time, and the best of all, they're letting Billy Eichner be Billy Eichner, they're letting Seth Rogen be Seth Rogen, and it actually works for the Timon and Pumbaa characters as well. They are phenomenal. Actually, all around, the voice cast is phenomenal. Donald Glover is amazing as Simba. Beyonce is amazing. It's Beyonce. She's not bad at anything, honestly, except maybe being bad. The only criticisms and gripes that I have with the two of them is, as great as they are, you're not going to get as much of them as you really should. But that being said, they still do amazing in their parts. Everyone actually does amazing in their roles. Dr. John Connie playing Rafiki, James Earl Jones reprising his role as Mufasa. The one person that I thought didn't do as great a job as I'd hoped he would was really Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar. Scar was originally voiced by Jeremy Irons in the 1994 classic, and there was just something about Irons that was just amazing. It was sinister, it was charming, it was beautiful. Chiwetel approaches the role with a little bit more of a Shakespearean flair, and he's not bad, but at no point in this movie did I ever feel like Scar was a menacing presence like I did in the original. And that leads to probably my biggest criticism about the movie, which is the emotion that this version of The Lion King invokes within its audiences. I think it's lacking. And the reason that I think it's lacking is probably for two reasons. The first reason, of course, is because we know this movie inside and out. We've seen it a bazillion times. We know exactly what's going to happen. We were already invested in this movie before we went to see the movie. But because we already knew how this story was going to play out, I think it killed a lot of the tension that we probably should have been feeling throughout this movie, a lot of the emotional impact. The second thing is that because this was shot to resemble a live-action movie, I think we finally kind of discover that this is a story that lends itself way better to animation than it does live action. And the reason being is because when you can anthropomorphize lions and meerkats, you can relate to that a lot better. When Mufasa is looking at Simba in the fields and they're playing, the way that he's looking at him in the animated movie is with an expression that denotes a father's love, a pure father's love. That relationship is so palpable and so powerful, and we are instantaneously taken by it and charmed by it. And that leads to Mufasa's eventual death and the impact and the heartbreak that it causes us. We are so invested in that relationship because we're seeing it on their faces. We're relating to it because they're basically humanized. Unfortunately, because we are taking a realistic approach to this film in 2019, that whole anthropomorphized look is sacrificed. And what we're left with are, well, unfortunately, pretty emotionless cats. And I'm not saying that they should have made this, a movie with facial expressions on the cats. I don't think that it works that way. And I don't think Favreau wanted to do that. I think he wanted to keep this as realistic as possible. And mad kudos and props to them for doing that because they did make it look amazing. Unfortunately, though, I just didn't feel as emotionally connected to this. Quite frankly, I think that by sacrificing that kind of anthropomorphized emotion, expression, you're also sacrificing our connectivity to the characters in a way. I feel like the only reason that we're connected with these characters is because we're connected with the original characters. We know who Simba is because we've seen that original movie. I suppose you would have to go into this movie kind of looking at it or addressing it like a documentary, which is a fair and valid point. But I honestly don't think that you're going to get as much emotion or as much of an impact from this film as you did when you saw it in 1994 in the animated version. That being said, other criticisms, I thought Rafiki, the character, was completely shortchanged in this one. I felt like this was a very important character from the films, the original film, and he's really supposed to be that moral compass that guides Simba back to the Pride Lands, the Yoda to Simba's Luke, if you will. And they shortchange him here. His part is still the same part, and he still goes to where Simba is and gets him to go back to Pride Lands. But unfortunately, it's so accelerated and abbreviated, the pacing of those moments, that I don't think it gives that character its due or its reverence, and that's really unfortunate. That being said, I still think that the spectacle and the visuals are enough to get families to go and enjoy. I think that, again, it's really funny, especially the Timon and Pumbaa scenes. And I honestly think the voice cast does what it can, and Favreau's doing everything to make this story come to life, and I think that that works in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, though, it is a disappointment, considering that the original is just so well regarded and so brilliant. And I think that this could have been done a little bit better. I was really looking forward to seeing what Favreau would bring to the table that was new, like he did with the Jungle Book. I thought the Jungle Book was a perfect example of taking this technology, telling the same story that we love, but then putting spins and twists on it that we didn't expect. And I think that it succeeded immensely because of that. The sheer fact that Favreau changed the ending of that movie, because I personally had a problem with the ending of the Jungle Book, the animated movie, was brilliant. And I wish that they not necessarily changed the ending of this, because it's a pretty perfect movie, but I wish he did add a little bit more flair to this. But then again, like I said in the beginning of this review, damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. So I absolutely can't blame him. I think on a conceptual level, remaking The Lion King in live action is an amazing idea. In execution, not so much. That being said, is it worth your time? Should you take the kids to see it? Yeah, it's the story that you loved. If you loved the original, they didn't change the story at all. It's basically like putting on a DVD and rewatching the original, but less emotional and less of an impact. As such, I'm afraid I'm going to have to award The Lion King a B-. That being said, hope you guys check it out. I definitely want to hear what you think. I think a lot of people in the theater seem to like it a little bit more. So hopefully audiences will embrace it. I don't know what there isn't to embrace, considering that it's a, completely well-known, well-loved story. And I honestly think that you'll get a kick out of watching the visuals and watching Timon and Pumbaa this time around again, just like you did in 1994. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Until next time, stay tuned, nerds.